puntas y cacos.
Canóvanas, Cataños, Juncos, Las Ayuyas,
Villalba, Arroyo, te amo.
La cueva de Camuy, los baños de Coamo.
Trujillo Alto, Ceiba, Ciales, la isla de Vieques, el Grito de Lares.
Yauco,
Sidra,
Añasco,
Patillas, Morovis, Loíza, lo hiciste.
Puerto Rico.
Welcome everyone from wherever you are in this moment. We are so grateful that you have chosen to be here with us for this learning opportunity with Dr. Anna Puig. We hope that you are able to receive valuable insights from this experience to bring back to your places of influence personally and professionally. We send a huge thank you to Dr. Felicia Brown and Dr. Natasha Maynard Pemba, who have sponsored this session through our CWC continuing education program. Instructions will be put in the chat for anyone with a Florida counseling, social work, or psychology license to get CE credit for attending at least 80% of the live session today. Please allow a few weeks for Dr. Felicia Brown to post credit in CE Broker. The recording has already begun today, but participant videos are hidden from view, and the only way that attendees will be included in the recording is in the form of optional written questions or comments in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, where you can type anything that you might usually share in the chat area. In the Q&A, you can put questions, comments, or feedback. Also, whenever Dr. Anna Puig says something that you want to remember, you're welcome to help quote her to help us all remember. We welcome your input in the Q&A box. For example, right now, we really would love to know where anybody is zooming in from all across the world. Feel free to acknowledge where you're at in this moment. We would love to see how far and wide we are connected. Just taking a moment to see if anyone's putting anything in the Q&A about where they are. Toronto, Orlando, Florida, Akron, Ohio, Dover, DE, greetings, Louisiana, Seattle, Washington, Jacksonville, Florida, Duke University, North Carolina. Wow. Thank you all for letting us know where you are. Nashville, Tennessee. Oh, this is wonderful.
Harry.
Thanks. Feel free to keep putting in the chat where you're zooming in from. So we want to acknowledge that live captioning has been enabled for this session, and you can feel free to turn this feature on or off for yourself at the bottom of your screen by pressing the icon in the shape of a box with a CC inside. You might need to click more with the 3 dots. We also encourage closing all other computer windows, turning phones to silent, so we can be as present as possible in these moments. You are invited to take notes during this session so you can revisit and discuss what you experience with friends, family, and colleagues. Alachua, Florida, North Carolina, Illinois, just looking more where people are from. We also want to take a moment and acknowledge the present day socio-political climate and the historical, intergenerational, and very painful current relentless racial trauma that is in the collective. And we're placing resources in the chat. And we encourage anyone to do whatever you need to do during this presentation or after this presentation to take care of yourself and attend to your needs. So I'm going to read Anna's bio and then give some space. So Dr. Anna Puig is the Scholar and Research Director at the Office of Educational Research at the University of Florida and affiliate faculty in the School of Human Development and Organizational Studies in the Counselor Education Unit. Her areas of specialization are multicultural spirituality, complementary therapies and mental health, creativity in counseling and supervision, and counselor burnout. Anna has published widely on these topics over the past 15 years, and more recently, her scholarship has focused on multicultural and social justice advocacy in research and practice, particularly experiential group work that centers and amplifies the voices of disenfranchised Black, Brown, and Indigenous people of color. Since the emergence of COVID-19 and racism pandemics in the United States, Anna has co-facilitated sessions on mindfulness practices to combat racism and promote compassion across the university and other communities. Anna is also a fellow of the American Counseling Association, which is a very esteemed honor. Thank you for sharing your embodied wisdom with us today, Dr. Anna Puig.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Lennis. It's wonderful to be here. I want to start by saying my pronouns are she, her, hers, ella. I am a proud Boricua, hence the video that we shared with you. I also wanted to acknowledge the land that we stand on. Land acknowledgement is an important aspect of really honoring the people that were here before us and that we have harmed so much over time with our efforts at colonizing lands. And so the University of Florida in particular sits on the land of the Timucua people and the Seminole tribe of Florida. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. Next slide, please. So we start with the self always, right? And when I was invited to present to you all, as it related to my work in creativity and mindfulness and anti-racism, I provided a time for me to return to the reflection of the skin I inhabit and the place I come from. The sum total of those experiences, of course, make me who I am today. And I see this, this work of anti-racism and advocacy for disenfranchised and marginalized peoples as a lifelong journey. I could tell you that I've barely started and I will never be done. I come from the beautiful island of Puerto Rico, who has a history of colonization by Spanish people and more recently the United States. I was born in relative privilege in a very small town in the middle of the island. The town's name is Utuado, Otoao in the Taino language. We hold the largest and oldest ceremonial Indian park in the Caribbean. And I had beautiful memories of my childhood spent frolicking among the carvings of on the stones and playing in this beautiful land. I say I was born in privilege because I had a sheltered life. I didn't really know or understand race. The Puerto Rican people are truly a mixture of the Taino indigenous peoples, the Black slaves that were brought over by the Spaniards, and the Spanish people themselves. And when you see a typical Puerto Rican, a Jíbaro, you see a mixture of all three. And I am the daughter of second generation immigrants from Barcelona. So my name Puig means mountaintop in Catalan, which is the language of the region. And it's my background. And so I grew up for 17 years on the island, and I feel that I had everything I needed and wanted. I am the middle child of 5. This positionality really allowed me the opportunity to become a bit of a rebel and hellraiser. I can tell you the two siblings that came behind me had an easier time than the two who came before me. They walked the line and followed the rules. And I, was a little bit of a rebel. And so I didn't so much follow the rules. I wanted to know why. I asked questions, and lots of questions that got me in trouble. And I knew one thing for sure. My father, who owned a pharmacy as a business, even though he was not a pharmacist, always said that we would be educated in the United States of America. He proudly said that he was more Republican than Nixon. I don't know what that means, but essentially he was a very conservative man who wanted the best for his 4 daughters and little baby son. And so he said, as soon as he could send us to the United States, we would come here for college. And that's exactly what happened. He would not allow me to go to New York City, where I wanted to go. He said, you can go to the United States, but you have to go where your 2 older sisters are going to be. And that turned out to be Lafayette, Louisiana, because his best friend went to school there and his daughters were going to school there. And he wanted to make sure that we had company and that we could all protect each other. So off I went to Raging Cajun country. And I will never forget my registration experience. This is the first time in my life where I began to see myself as being othered. I went to the counter of the registrars to fill out a form so I could register for classes. And it was a demographic form, and I had never, 17 years old, done anything of the sort. So I was standing there trying to read the words in English, and I studied English all my life, so I thought I knew English, right? And I saw my options were, white, black, Asian, I don't know, Hispanic. And I was looking at it and like, what am I? What am I? And I marked white. And the woman across the counter looked at me and says, honey, you ain't white, you're Puerto Rican. And just like that, I was told who I was. And I knew that who I was in that moment was not white. I'm not sure what prompted this human to say that to me, but it changed the way that I saw myself. And so my sisters and I ended up joining the International Student Association, which was the closest thing to an other group that we could find. And I began to really unpack my identities and who I was and who I would become. Today, in my 58 years of life, I could tell you I am a proud Boricua, I am Puerto Rican, I am Jewish, I'm a lesbian. And the unfolding of all of those identities and the intersections of those identities have become the thing that informs my life's work. And I decided over a cup of coffee, when I finished my bachelor's and I came back to Gainesville where my parents were, I decided, because my mother said it, that I would become a counselor. I always thought that helping people was an honorable thing to do. And so she's a social worker by training. And it seemed to me like a fitting career. And here I am. I have always been drawn to spirituality and religion, always drawn to helping others, always drawn to meditation as a vehicle for grounding, and hence my interest in mindfulness. And I have always wanted to be a poet. And of course, my parents said, you can't make a living being a poet. And so I chose counseling. But I integrate creativity into my work because I think creativity is just a beautiful way of processing emotions. And that's very much part of how I do what I do. Next slide, please. Thank you. I wanted to start with this because I believe with all my heart that the only way that racial healing and transformation, indeed, any healing and transformation, the only way to make that happen is with love. I believe that love is the most powerful force that we have available to us. And the Reverend Dr. King said it best. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. So we'd start with love. Next slide, please. This is what we are going to go over today. And I suspect many of us here in this forum may be aware already of the types of mindfulness practice, may be aware already of the different forms in which creativity could be integrated into the work that we do. May be aware of the work of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who created the theory of flow and the idea that whenever we are engaged in something we love deeply, time disappears. And so I want to engage you today in an experience of emptying your mind, getting that chatter mind out through the work of Natalie Goldberg, beautiful writer and teacher of writing, and Zen Buddhist meditator. She sees writing as a meditation practice, and I have come to believe that as well. I want to introduce you, if you don't know already, to the fabulous work of Ruth King. Ruth King wrote Mindful of Race, and I will go over the 6 hindrances to racial harmony, which is what we are striving for when we do anti-racist work. And of course, leave you with a list of resources that you can draw from. Now, I want to ask you, if you don't mind using the Q&A, and tell me, what types of mindfulness practice are you aware of, you know about? Just go ahead and put some words in there for me. There you are, positive affirmations, absolutely. Yoga, prayer, meditation, being mindful with nature, love that. Breath work, mindful eating, yes, walking. And isn't that awesome? Pao Yin Wang, hi, Pao Yin. Body scanning, engaging with the senses and nature. Isn't that what we have all been drawn to do in the midst of COVID? Yes, just getting up and out, exercising, breathing in nature, looking at beauty, walking barefoot in morning dewy ground. Yoli, that's a poem in itself. We can call it a haiku, mindful moments. So yes, you know what I'm talking about when I say, here it is, listening to music with my eyes closed. When I was listening to that video at the beginning, I was transported. Yes, I was being mindful of my beautiful island. Yes, thank you, thank you. Soul recovery, Jim. So good to see you here, Jim. Journal writing, absolutely beautiful. See how some of these things kind of blend into the creativity in that emotional expression and processing that I'm talking about. Mindfulness and creativity go hand in hand. And when we are fully engaged, we go into the flow of being fully present. Yes. And that, my friends, is what we are going to be doing right now. So let's go to the next slide. Thank you. Let's leave that there for now. Before we get into the work of Ruth King, I want you to find a piece of paper or go to your computer screen. And I am going to give you, hold on a second. Yeah, you know what? I changed my mind. I think I'm going to flip this. Hold on that, okay? Hold on. Let's talk about Ruth King and the hindrances of racial harmony. Yeah, let's do that first, and then we're going to empty our minds. This is what Ruth King says. Racism is a heart disease. How we think and respond is at the core of racial suffering and racial healing. If we cannot think clearly and respond wisely, we will continue to damage the world's heart. We all suffer from racism. Our hearts are hurting. Let's talk about the hindrances, please. The next slide. Thank you. 6 things that get in the way that we need to unpack. And please, no, I will not do justice to this work. You have to read the book. You have to do the work that the book talks about, because this is, again, a lifelong practice. The first one is white people, good individuals. Who can argue with that, right? People of color experience the world through their group identity. White people in general are more individualistic. They think of themselves as well-meaning, hardworking, and perhaps even unaware that they are a racial group. A person of color sees success as the sum total, the result of the support that they have received from their community. It's a collectivistic identity. Most white people bring to the table their individual identity and are unable to speak of racial history, of their own dominant group, or their status as a collective. Most think if I made it, it's because I worked really hard, and other people should be able to do the same thing. Hindrance number 1. Hindrance number 2 is internalized oppression. What happens when you live in a world that constantly reminds you there's something wrong with you? You can internalize that message. And subordinate groups just breathe in the message and make it their own. And you may be astounded to know, if you haven't read it, that this programming of psychological oppression goes back to the 16th century. And there are documents that prove that slave owners were taught how to control their slaves in systematic ways. Ruth King says internalized oppression stifles the human spirit. No one can argue with that. She moves on to talk about stars and constellations, and it is indeed a very creative metaphor that illustrates the ways in which we have been conditioned to see the night sky, either by the stars that shine or by the constellations that the stars form. It's about seeing the little picture versus the big picture. It's about seeing police murders of Black people as isolated, unfortunate events, rather than seeing it as a systemic system of oppression that is perpetuated in the policing of Black and brown bodies. Ruth King calls on the white race to step up in this way. It would be wholesome for all of humanity if white people as a collective were to see themselves as racial individuals and to recognize whiteness as a racial constellation that has roots, history, power, and privilege that negatively impacts other races. And then, if they organize themselves to dismantle the racial constellations of harm, white people as a collective could come together to intentionally dismantle the racial constellations of harm. Next hindrance, intent and impact. Intentions do not justify the impact or explain it. People of color usually carry the burden of accommodating when white people unintentionally cause harm. They have to decide if they're going to manage what just occurred by confronting it or remain silent. Fatigue and frustration are real and become cumulative. Even those institutions that are making systemic efforts to become more inclusive and diverse do so sometimes by tokenizing people of color and expecting them to show gratitude and to integrate into the system. So the collective impact is just a long-standing weariness and wounding that is experienced day in and day out. Some call it battle fatigue. It's the idea that there's a feeling of collective anxiety that is experienced when conversations about race bubble up. You may have one of those families where those conversations are not to be had. Or maybe they're just racist and you know it. And so you don't bring it up because you don't want to have a fight, right? So to uproot the habits of racial harm requires soul searching by individuals, groups, and institutions. This is where mindfulness could come in handy. The last one is white privilege and white collusion. And you may have heard this one. It's about group power or racial dominance that white individuals can choose to exercise. The term white privilege often turns off white people, makes them angry. Some white people relate to being white, and many have difficulty with the word privilege because they say, I'm not privileged. It's not me. Because it's not your individual experience, perhaps. Whites may say, you know, my success comes from hard work. And this is the nature of white privilege. This is how Ruth King explains it. The nature of white privilege is that whites either don't recognize that they have it or feel entitled to it. White privilege is having the choice to be white or not. White privilege is having the choice to be white or not, to claim membership in the white group identity or not, to be aware of your race or not, and to talk about race or not, all without consequence. And I don't have to tell you that's not something that Black and brown people can do. Privilege is the water that dominance swims in. I'll read that again. Privilege is the water that dominance swims in. Now, let's go to the writing exercise and see what comes up for you. Next slide, please. We're going to get our charter mind out through the work of Natalie Goldberg, who wrote in the 1980s, Writing Down the Bones, writing as meditation practice. This is your directive on your computer or a piece of paper. You are going to reflect upon the socio-political landscape of racial trauma, the sessions you have attended, maybe you've been to the ones previous to this one, and the events that you have witnessed. And these are the rules. And this is where you need to make sure you follow the rules. Keep your hand moving. There's no pausing to reread. That's called stalling and trying to control what you're writing. So put your hands on the keyboard or put that pen on the paper or that pencil and keep your hand moving. Don't cross out. That's editing. Editing is not allowed. If you wrote something and you didn't mean to write it, just leave it alone. It came out, let it be. Keep your hand moving, don't cross out. Don't worry about punctuation, spelling, or grammar. You don't even have to stay in the margins or follow the lines. Lose control. Don't think, don't get logical. This is free flow of consciousness. Go for the jugular. If it's scary, there's life in it. If it's upsetting, life is in it. It has lots of energy. Just let it be. I am going to time you for 3 minutes. All right? 3, 2, 1, go. Keep your hand moving. No cheating. Whatever comes out, let it flow. And stop. Okay. Now, I want you to turn your attention to the Q&A, please. And type what is a salient emotion that you captured. in this chatter. Salient emotion. Go ahead. Disgust. Isolated. Sadness, bitterness, resentment, straight pissed, anxiety, hopelessness, rage, overwhelmed, anger, confusion, wow, despair, shame, horror, resentment, guilt, yeah, stretch, puzzlement. All of these emotions are to be expected of this work. This work hurts in your heart, Jody. It hurts in your heart. It's tough work. It's difficult work. What did you learn about what came out? What is it trying to tell you? What is it trying to tell you what came out of you in this moment? What is the message? Because we are here to challenge what we know and understand to be an unjust system. To learn to be more aware of my privilege and what I say. Yeah. I could be a change agent. Yeah. There's a feeling that there's more to be done. We can do better. Yeah. We can do better. Thirsting for validation and justice. Labeling can divide us even more. Yes. Yeah. Labeling can be very, can be a hindrance in itself. Perhaps what we need to do is name the thing. Name the thing that we want to change. To be more available to speak to my white friends and family when they ask me, how can they be better allies? Yeah. Yeah, we have some allyship resources for you today. I'm hoping you can visit the website that we have created in the College of Education for that purpose. Yeah. So what I want to do is I want to invite you in the remaining time that we have to do a brief meditation that will hopefully allow you to get in touch with your creative self. A creative self that lives inside of us, inside of you. And in that creativity and in that mindfulness, we may be able to find a way, Yvonne, to change the narrative. I love that. How can we change the narrative? What does mindfulness have to do with anti-racism? Let me tell you what. Get comfortable wherever you are, sitting, laying, standing even. Take a moment. Keep your body upright and relaxed. You can lower your gaze if you wish with a soft focus and just become aware of your surroundings, the space you are in this moment. And when you're ready, take in a few deep breaths. In through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through your mouth. And when you are ready, close your eyes on an exhale and allow your breath to return to its natural rhythm. And settle back into the space around you. What are the sensations and sounds? Just note them. Come back to the breath. And follow my voice as I guide you through. The truths of our country's history are hard to hold, harder to endure. Centuries of violence against BIPOC, anti-Black racism is the core wound of the American culture. Trauma and violence are pervasive. And now we bear witness to a resurgence of anger and despair. In the words of Reverend King, a riot is the language of the unheard. And we must be courageous and look within for the beliefs that we hold on to that might get in the way of our anti-racist work. We must be willing to be vulnerable so that we can be brave. We must pause to listen. Listen deeply and intentionally and carefully. We embrace mindfulness as a vehicle towards stillness and understanding. So we might hear the voices rising. Crucial inquiry is necessary. We must respond wisely right now and acknowledge the bodies that we are in. Our Black, Brown, Indigenous, Asian, Asian American, Pacific Islander fellow humans are tired, exhausted, devastated, grieving, afraid. What are some ways in which we can deepen our attention so we can take our first healing steps? Our first restful moment. Start where you are. Let's have a closer look. Feel yourself here. Invite yourself here. Touch into the realness of now with intention to be gentle and curious. Sense and feel how all of these events, the pandemics of our lives, the trauma of racism in our collective psyche, how are these things impacting you? Maybe there's hurt, rawness, anger, rage, hopelessness, despair, or numbness. Just do an honest check-in. There's no right or wrong. Maybe something else is more salient right now. What is emerging within you that asks for your acceptance? Can you be a compassionate witness of what is inside you? We are feeling society's feelings, a whole range of them. Offer your compassionate witnessing of what is right here, right now. This is the first step. And we must come back to it again and again. Acknowledge what is here. We know Ruth King teaches us racism is a disease of the heart. How is my heart ailing? How am I struggling? How is my awareness of the hindrances to racial harmony settling into my mind, my heart, my body? How do I feel in this moment? Allow whatever bubbles up to be there and observe it with openness and curiosity. Bring your attention back to the body. Check in with your body. Scan for sensations of discomfort. Remember the intention behind our meditation today. Shift your attention to your breath. Where are you feeling the breath? Now I want you to focus on the rising and falling sensation of the breath. And as you continue to watch it, imagine a tiny speck of light in the middle of your chest. This speck is your creative spark. Center your attention upon it. Watch it shine and pulsate. Open up to this light. Watch it. Just as you realize it is there, it begins expanding outwardly in every direction. This bright, spacious light speck continues to expand, first toward the edges of your body in every direction, up through your chest and head, and then down to your feet, your legs, beyond your body into the space all around you. Imagine this. This speck is going beyond everything surrounding you, wherever you sit or lay. It's going into the whole room and beyond the room, upwards toward the ceiling, through the ceiling and beyond. It is filling the entire city, maybe even the entire country, continent, or planet. This light is so powerful that it can transcend space and time and move beyond the universe itself. Allow this space to continue expanding as far as your mind can imagine it to go. There is no limit. Allow your mind and heart to rest in this space. Free of expectations. Breath in and breath out. Just feel the breath and rest your mind. Let this light feel your heart and soothe it. Surrender to this sensation. Rest for just a moment. Peaceful, shining, bright light, warming your heart, your mind, your spirit. And so it is. And now, gently start bringing the attention back to your body. Feel the weight. Notice the sensations, sights, sounds, and smells of the space around you. Feel the stillness within and without. And in your own time, when you're ready, gently open your eyes and hold your posture for just a moment. A few seconds. Take this time to appreciate giving yourself these minutes of recharging your creative mind. Welcome home. And now I am aware of the time. We have 5 more minutes. I am happy to stay here a while longer. And I want to invite you to write a poem. This is the last directive. It is based on the work of Tom Crockett, The Artist Within. I highly recommend it. You're going to answer some questions first, okay? And if you need to leave, then I understand, and I thank you for being here with us today. But if you can stay a little bit, thank you, Cindy. I would like for you to write down answers to these questions. If you were a season, what would you be? Just on a piece of paper or your computer. If you were a season, what would you be? Don't think too much, just whatever comes up. If you were a precious stone, what would you be? Precious stone. If you were a sound, what would you sound like? And if you were a bird, what kind of bird would you be? And if you were a musical instrument, yeah. If you were a body of water, a body of water. If you were a time of day, and if you were a weather pattern, what would you be? If you were a magical or mystical creature, if you were a feeling, what feeling would you be? And if you were a scent, and if you were a movement, what movement would you be? And if you were a flavor, what flavor would you be? And one more. What is the color of your spirit? What is the color of your spirit? Now, you are going to write a poem about healing and transformation using at least 7 of the items on your list. 7. Go to it. Yes, it would help if I unmuted myself. Thank you, Allison. The question is, what is most salient in this moment for you? Could be a phrase or some words or one word or a sentence. What is most salient in this moment for you? How do you feel? Presence. Ah, astute. Cool. Hmm. Chantrell, what is the color of your spirit? Stay connected in the present moment. Yes. That's all we have. Green. Love it. Yes. Deep down, I am joyful. My spirit is yellow. Yes. Awesome. Okay. Very cool. Lavender. Yeah. Beautiful. So I'm aware of the time, and in a perfect world, ooh, the Phoenix, that's awesome. Yin, orange, yay. Yin, my spirit is royal blue. I just want to express my gratitude to all of you for choosing to be here today, and to the CWC folks who are very gracious and loving and so thorough and organized. Thank you for this opportunity. And if you have any questions or you want to reach out, feel free to do so. I am happy to. Thank you, Jim, so much. Thank you, Cindy. Absolutely. You're welcome, Chantrell. Yeah. You're welcome, Danielle. Thank you for coming. Ah, Dr. Nash. Wonderful to see you. Ah, thank you, Yoli. Absolutely. Jillian, hi, thank you. Wonderful. Yes, this could be a whole weekend retreat. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, you're not alone. You are not alone. Thank you, Juliana. My pleasure. Suzanne, thank you. I feel it's my gift also. Yes, I'm in Puerto Rico, right here. My beautiful mountains. Yes, we can do a retreat in Puerto Rico. Yes, that too. Awesome. Very cool.
I want to read a couple poems that people have been submitting.
Oh, sure. Sure, please.
One of them says, I didn't know that I could write a poem. It was a beautiful spring day. She had felt free and true and real. As twilight approached and the sky became sapphire blue, she looked to one side and saw a thick storm brewing. She looked to the other side and saw the golden beams of the setting sun. She savored the moment and declared she would move forward in strength.
Oh my goodness. That is so beautiful. So, so beautiful. Anna. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Anna. That's a beautiful poem.
And if anybody else wants to add their poem to the Q&A box, feel free to.
Thank you, Emily.
I can share another one.
Yeah.
It says, in the spring of 2021, among the moans and wails of grief and trauma, there is a drumbeat, a waterfall of love, eagles dancing in the big sky mind, among the double rainbow that reaches beyond the beyond.
Awesomeness. Oh, yes. Show yourself. Let me see you. Hey, you beautiful poet. This is the hardest part of this whole hour is not being able to see people. It's like, I want to see your faces. I want to see you. Hi, Yoni, Jim. Oh, it's so good to see you. Wonderful. Suzanne, hi. Oh, goodness. How cool is that? Awesome.
We're having an after party.
Oh, I know. I feel that way. So cool. Oh, thank you so much for being here with us. I feel a little bit giddy. I don't know why. Yeah, you know, it's I think moments like this make me hopeful for us. Make me hopeful for us. I just want to keep doing this work. Keep doing this work. Thank you, Emmy, for inviting me.
It's a whole group of people.
Any one of these activities can be a tool, and you could bring it into teaching. You could bring it into supervision. I have used creativity in supervision, doing images instead of words. I think mindfulness meditation has been shown to really ground students and open them up to that experience of connection to a client, to each other, to learning. There's something about being present that is really necessary in the counseling exchange, right? If you are not fully present, then you're going to miss the message and the context. And so any one of these, and you know, it's what Yoli was saying, we could do a whole retreat with these. The books that I used to draw this from are chock full of other exercises, you know, that could be adapted for counseling work, for sure. And you could do it in group settings, which is my thing. You know, I'm a groupie. I love groups. And you can also do it individually with people. It's highly adaptable, I think. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much.
We've done this work together, Amy, you and I.
Yeah, it's just like the explicitly stating that every single thing you did today is totally transferable to so many other settings, that other people can lead what you led today.
Yeah.
I love that. So empowering. Like
And
these-
what I love about creativity and mindfulness is that people don't need to sit there and talk. You can just draw something and show a whole host of emotions. You could write a poem and say more in that poem than you could do in 6 months of therapy. I mean, that's creative. It's powerful, right? It's powerful. Yeah. And it's instantly recognizable, right? Like I listen to your poem and I'm immediately connecting with that. And it's not like you're reading it to me, you're reading your poem from within you and I'm making a connection. It's just instantaneous how that happens. But I'm biased, so I admit it. The thing started because we are connected. It started with having connection in social distancing. This all started when the pandemic hit, but we had begun doing the allyship work the whole 2019. And then we were doing the sessions and we're like, wait a minute, we could take that stuff and bring it here. And then we could do the work with all these people that show up to do meditation. And we just take the opportunity to say, learn about this. How do you challenge yourself and your biases and prejudices with kindness and compassion? Because, if you're trying to help people change, you're not going to grab a bat and beat them over the head. What you do is you bring them in and you say, let me unpack this with you. Okay. Because you're a human being, even the most misguided person, you have to believe that, well, you can somehow, if we didn't believe that people can change, counseling would not exist. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's where I go back to again and again. I have to believe that people can change to keep doing this work. That's
Wow.
it. That's it. That's it. That's all. Yeah. It's a labor of love, my friend.
Aguada, las juntas y caguas.
Canoa, Nacataño, Junco, La Jayuya.
Villalba, Arroyo, te amo.
La cueva de Camuy, los baños de Coamo.
Trujillo Alto, Ceiba, Ciales, la isla de Vieques, el grito de Lares.
Yauco,
Sidra,
Añasco,
Patillas, Morovis, Loíza, lo hiciste.
Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico.